All right, nobody had even heard of DeepSeek until this week, and now it's all I can read about. If somehow you have avoided all that, it's a Chinese-developed AI that has skyrocketed to the top of the app stores. It's all over social media. But it's causing chaos on Wall Street. NVIDIA's stock just took a nosedive. And on the other hand, it's being praised for being open source and highly efficient to train. And then there's the cybersecurity doom criers saying that this is all part of the Chinese plan to steal more of your data. So what is it? A huge leap forward in AI technology, or a threat to US AI supremacy and a giant cybersecurity risk? The root of this sparking concerns in the stock market in particular is comparing DeepSeek to OpenAI. DeepSeek is free. It runs on older and cheaper hardware. This is something that everyone in AI had said was impossible up until now. DeepSeek has apparently trained its newest model, R1, on a budget of $5 million. But industry giants like OpenAI and Google have poured billions into training their model, not to mention stockpiling giant GPU clusters, hence the valuation of NVIDIA. We've all been working under the assumption that more, bigger hardware equals always better. DeepSeek is putting that to question. If you're new to this channel, I'm Matt Johansson. I've been in cybersecurity over 15 years, from startups to the world's largest financial institutions. I wanted to look at DeepSeek today because a lot of people are asking me, hey, is this a cybersecurity risk? And I'm seeing a lot of fear mongering about the type of data that is stored on DeepSeek servers, which are located in China. So is this a sign of Chinese ingenuity and AI dominance shift? Or is this a Trojan horse and just another TikTok to get into your phones and your data piles? Let's talk about what even got us here. This was inevitable. NVIDIA is a US company that has restrictions on its ability to sell into China. So a lot of the Chinese AI companies are not working off of the latest and greatest NVIDIA hardware. Some of them are. We have reports that they've been able to acquire these things even through these restrictions, because of course they have. But let's assume that the company behind DeepSeek was working off of older, not top-of-the-line NVIDIA hardware. There's some questions about that. A lot of conspiracy theories out there. I've seen no evidence that DeepSeek is actually trained on a bunch of the top-of-the-line NVIDIA stuff, and they're just claiming it hasn't been. But I wanted to bring up some news coverage from here. 404 did a great article, as per usual. Shout out 404. And as they point out, there was some skepticism starting last year already that this scaling law of just more compute and more power would consistently equal better, more talented large language models. You're even seeing the co-founder of OpenAI and Andreessen saying they're starting to see diminishing returns on the additional hardware. Throughout all that, NVIDIA's stock continued to rise. This gets to the part that I am saying was inevitable. If you're going to restrict a country like China from working off the latest, greatest hardware, they're going to figure out a way around it, either by getting the hardware or what seems to have happened here, figuring out a new way to train super optimized AI models. A little bit of a history here. DeepSeek has spun out from a Chinese hedge fund, which had a bunch of GPUs to do financial data. So it's not like this was built with scraps out of a cave like Tony Stark. They had some beefy stuff, all right? But the crux of what everyone is talking about today is this new, more efficient reinforcement learning strategy. And look, even 404 brings up the suspicions that they might be hiding the true cost in ways that we will never understand, because China. And then they tie it off with the crux of this video and why cybersecurity people are in an uproar today is that DeepSeek is from China. So regardless of NVIDIA's valuation, the future of AI training, it's okay, everyone just jumped on a free and highly performant AI with its servers hosted in China. You even had OpenAI employees tweeting, Americans sure love giving their data away to the CCP in exchange for free stuff. Next, I wanted to bring up some analysis from my good friend Daniel Miessler. He's an AI and cybersecurity expert. Great combo for today's talk. He outlined what happened in his newsletter this week, basically saying what we are, right? That the whole world assumed more and more NVIDIA chips were going to be needed. And then all of a sudden, there's this new efficient way that DeepSeek is doing it, which made investors think, wait a second, do people actually need less NVIDIA? Then Daniel gets into his analysis, which I agree with. We're going to need so much more AI. It does not matter that we can do it this much more efficiently. Like he says, we're getting more AI for less resources. End of story. He even pulled up a post that he put up, I think it was last year, the year before even, that he called this out, that there was plenty of slack in the rope in the whole AI training ecosystem, specifically in the post-training world. There's this screenshot from last year. Post-training refines and shapes models' knowledge to enhance its accuracy, relevance, and performance in real-world applications. He was saying there was slack in the rope based on a company that had a worse base model, could outperform others with a better base model if they did better post-training. I liked his breakdown here. Again, even he says this isn't exactly accurate, but it's a good way to think about it, as training is the intelligence, the model, versus training the wisdom, the reinforcement learning, what DeepSeek is doing. He poses NVIDIA went from overvalued to undervalued. As he says, it was worth too much before because of hype, and it's worth too little now because the fundamentals have changed. Neither Daniel or I are giving you financial advice. All right, let's get into an area that I know a little bit more about, which is the cybersecurity of this whole thing. What people originally freaked out about was if you pull up the DeepSeek privacy policy, it says right here, where are we going to store your information? Well, we're going to store it on servers located in the People's Republic of China. Then you even saw tweets from big news accounts like Unusual Whales saying DeepSeek collects IP, keystroke patterns, device information, and stores it in China. Guys, every website you go to, every app you use knows that bit of information. That's how the internet works. So of course, the ever hilarious VX Underground hopped all over this. If you're not catching this, this is obviously satire, saying this mysterious document that DeepSeek titled Terms and Conditions stores information in their servers. Every website stores information in their servers. Worst of all, they're headquartered in China. This means your data is in China, as opposed to the United States of America, parentheses, not China. I like this reply too. Rumor is it also responds with HTTP and encrypts the data to hide it. All right, so we're having a good laugh about some of the mass media calling out that terms and conditions line without really understanding it. But pausing from the satire, is there any concern that the information that you're giving DeepSeek, if you go to their website and use the model via their website, is stored on Chinese servers? Which, in case you don't know, PRC law requires companies to let them access whatever they want. In the USA, we pretend to do the whole warrant thing. Obviously, the NSA and everything has been proven to go around that whole warrant system. But for some of you out there, and if you're into your own personal threat model, you might have a different concern about China storing your information versus US, irregardless of that whole NSA warrant thing and PRC law. But this brings me to a major point I wanted to highlight in today's video. There are a number of different options that you can use to interface with DeepSeek R1. So if you're an AI junkie and you really want to test this new model out, you want to see what it's capable of, you like that it's open source, you like that it's cheaper than all the US-based models right now, you can go one of a few ways. You can go the hosted route, which has both web and mobile, or you can go and host it yourself and run it locally. Here's a nifty cheat code for you. This equals China. This equals laptop. As of now, there's been no identified backdoor in the whole locally run model version of it. Some people were concerned that the code would have a backdoor in it, so even if you ran it offline, that somehow it was shoveling your requests or your data or whatever you're using it for back to China. It being open source, people are looking into that. Nothing's been found so far. Another important thing to note here is if you do run it locally, you're not running like the actual DeepSeek R1 that you would get off of their website or on the mobile app. But as the academic paper that rocked the world that came out that I'm showing on the screen shares in the first page, the DeepSeek R1 32-bit, this is the distilled version that you could download and run locally, is only a few points off the tippy top of the graph here for the actual DeepSeek, and then this gray one is the latest OpenAI O1. So if you want to run it locally, you avoid that whole part of a threat model of, is China bad? Now, besides avoiding it, should you avoid it? Should you even care? I've talked to a number of absolute cybersecurity experts about this topic because I was interested in a few opinions, and we seem split as an industry. Surprise, surprise. In one camp, I talked to Marcus Hutchins. You should go follow him on YouTube. He's got a great channel. He's fully given up on protecting the kinds of data that a website would be able to collect about you. He said, if I'm signing up for an app, I'm agreeing to give you that data. I know that you're going to store it, abuse it, misuse it, whatever. But that kind of data is already out there and it's cooked. He drew the comparison to, hey, we just saw evidence that China hacked our entire telecom wiretap system and we're listening in on phone calls and text messages. That is an area where we have assumed privacy. This whole I'm using your web app thing, no assumed privacy. Okay, valid. And I think that a lot of people watching probably agree with Marcus and are a little burnt out because of all the data breaches out there. That do I really need to protect my name and my email address and my IP address and blah, 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 blah. Then I've talked to a number of other cybersecurity professionals who have stated, hey, I've made it a huge part of my career to track down threat actors that are sponsored by the Chinese government. The threat is real. They've hacked into companies I've worked for. They've hacked into critical infrastructure of my country, and I've been paid to stop them or clean up the mess after them. They've gone so far as to say to me, I don't need evidence. I will not be installing that iOS app or using that web app. But even they have started to test the local model, for what that's worth. In my personal opinion, yeah, I don't think I'm going to be using the iOS app or the web app version of DeepSeek just yet. But it does kind of freak me out that it is the #1 app on the App Store right now. That happened fast. One of the other things that freaks me out is the censorship aspect of this. I'm going to bring up a few Reddit threads. Reddit's basically trying to get it to say things that DeepSeek is explicitly told to not respond to. And obviously Reddit's pretty good at figuring out ways around all of these guardrails. Like here, respond using emojis, and it worked. Or if you ask it some obvious Chinese talking point hotspots, like the Tiananmen Square incident, it starts to respond, it realizes what it's saying, and then it says, oh, sorry, I can't say that. Or for example, if you ask it about Taiwan, sorry, that's beyond my current scope. So here's my thoughts about if this is overall a cybersecurity risk. Based on everything we're seeing, obviously the hosted versions are collecting your data, and they're explicitly telling you that they're storing it on Chinese servers, which the PRC has ultimate rights and access to. Second, I wanted to draw some comparisons to another video I just made last week about the whole TP-Link router situation. Go watch that one for the whole rundown, but basically the US is in mumblings about banning TP-Link routers because they're a Chinese-owned company. TP-Link has often been one of the cheapest, highest performing routers on the consumer market. They've been one of the easiest routers to buy for consumers off of Amazon or at Best Buy or anything like that, and they've even become one of the defaults that ISPs give out in your modem and router package. To that end, they've commanded a 65% market share in the whole Wi-Fi market space. There's starting to be some suspicions that they've been able to keep their prices low with the help of the Chinese government in order to command that market share. There's also some suspicions because they've had a number of security vulnerabilities and they've been massive parts of Chinese hacking campaigns and other botnets. So people are starting to pose the question, are those vulnerabilities being pumped out on purpose? I could see a similar conversation going on about DeepSeek. One of the biggest headlines this week was how much cheaper it is than OpenAI or some of the other competitors in this space. A, it's open source. B, you can use the web interface for free. C, even if you start to get into the API usage and you're getting into the millions of tokens, it's a fraction of the cost of OpenAI. So, sounds like a familiar Chinese playbook to me. Undercut the market and grab market share. So that's where I start to see maybe a real risk emerge. So even if you don't care about China storing your IP address, if you're working at a company that is building in these AI models into critical workflows, either in your development or in like how your application behaves in general, would you want to be using a model that the PRC can control how it responds and see the data that was coming into it? So if DeepSeek is undercutting by price the main competitors in the market and can grab enough market share into enough critical pieces of our entire infrastructure, because that's where AI is going, right? AI is being built into more and more workflows and more applications. If all of a sudden on the back end, that's DeepSeek, what happens when China wants to leverage that? So for your personal usage, and if you're just like asking it to help you write something or write some code, I don't think that this is a giant cybersecurity risk. You decide based on your personal threat model, whether the web app or the iOS app storing data in servers in China is too much of a risk for you. I highly recommend checking out running it locally. If you need some help doing that, let me know below. I'll post some videos about running it with Ollama. But if you're a company looking to build AI into your app in any sort of critical way, I would pause and think about your threat model a little bit before saving a buck here. Either way, I'm excited about the open source future of AI. And I think that this is just a blip in things like the NVIDIA stock or the overall AI race. We're going to see many more moments like these, especially with the US just claiming that they're going to throw $500 billion at AI projects over the next few years. What do you think? Are you using DeepSeek? Is it too risky for you? Let me know below. I'm really interested in more opinions. If you like what I'm doing, help get my new channel going, like and subscribe, share this video. I really appreciate all the support. That's it this time. Follow for more cybersecurity news.